Hello, besties. Hi, welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Gabby Giselle, and this is the Gabby Hour. And on today's podcast episode, we're going to be talking about book drama, Miss Girl. We're going to be just spilling all the tea on some booktuber drama, some book-talker drama. We're going to be talking about how you don't really own your ebooks, which is something that I recently fell down a rabbit hole of. Okay, so hold your horses. We're also going to be talking about, is reading political? How I feel about it, and feel free to discuss in the comments. And we're also going to be discussing, is BookTok perpetuating anti-intellectualism? And we're just going to be kind of talking about what that means and how really just I feel about it. Now, if you guys enjoy bookish content, whatever, go check out my vlog channel. It'll be linked down below. It's Gabby Giselle here on YouTube. I do reading vlogs. I talk about books. Today I filmed a May TBR and an April wrap-up where I kind of talk a little bit more in detail about all the books that I enjoyed this month. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Go check that out. Love you. Let's get into it. So first off, I want to start off by saying that if you're looking for like a very intellectual, very well thought out, well researched, backed up by facts and articles and all of these things, I'm just going to stop you right there. This is not that. Go check out Plant-Based Bride, Jared Henderson, and Damn It Jeff, okay, on YouTube. Really awesome people. I'm going to tag them down below so you guys can check them out. That is where I've learned all of the things that I'm going to talk about, especially in regards to the Amazon Kindle scandal of like you don't really own your ebooks. So if you guys want more information about all of that, go check out their videos on it. They're extremely well done and well researched. So if you want something like that, go check their videos out. Highly suggest it. But of course, watch mine first. Just watch mine first, because we're just going to be talking about how I feel about it. We're going to get started by first really talking about me, what I like to read, my history with reading, kind of updating you on how I feel about the reading space and the things that I've realized recently surrounding BookTube and BookTok and just the whole space in general. So for me, honestly, some of my favorite book genres are mysteries and thrillers. I enjoy romance, dark romance, don't even get me started. Fantasy, of course. I enjoy literary fiction. I enjoy pretty much everything, even self-help books I can get down with. And I did read exclusively only self-help from the age of like 17 to 21. So I get it. Okay. Well, probably to like 20. Yeah, probably to 20. And then I got tired of it because I felt like I was reading the same books over and over and over again, and switched back over to reading exclusively fiction. And I haven't picked up a self-help book in quite a while. I have been reading nonfiction books, but just not a self-help book in a long time. So basically, like fantasy, I didn't really get into though until the last 2 years, which shout out to Kaden. She's the one who convinced me. I did read City of Bones, and I think City of Ashes is the second book in the Mortal Instruments series. I probably was 13 when I read those, but I really love those books. And then when City of Bones came out as a movie, if you haven't seen that movie, go watch the movie. I didn't really like it. It didn't really hit for me, respectfully. It just didn't do it for me, unfortunately, but that's okay. But yeah, that is like the only experience I have with fantasy up until this, like the last 2 years. Kaden convinced me to read Fourth Wing. At first I was like, dragons? That sounds a little too nerdy for me. I don't want to read about dragons. But she convinced me. And truly I owe her everything. I owe that bitch everything, because had it not been for her, I would never know taste and culture. I would have never known fantasy and some of like my favorite books of all time. So thank you to Kaden for pushing me to do something that I was a little bit uncomfortable about trying. So slay. But recently I've been thinking about, are we all reading the same book? This is something that I saw some commentary on TikTok about, is influencing book influencers, bookfluencers as they call them, are they perpetuating the same tropes, the same books, the same themes, and so that's all people are reading right now? And that's something that I felt like when I look at my TBR, all of these are books that I found out about on TikTok, and pretty much all of them are books that I bought because I heard about them on it's somewhere in the internet, and they're not really books that I found just out in the wild and like wanted to read. If we're being honest, these are all books that I've seen somewhere on the online space and then gone out and purchased. And I've also recently realized, I forget who she is, but a creator recently, a POC creator on YouTube, she was discussing how she's kind of tired of BookTube and BookTokers uplifting mainly white authors, which, hey, I'm just saying white people write really well, apparently. But I was really thinking about it, and I was like, yeah, like I would like to read a book where I feel a little bit more represented. Just the same as like you follow creators who, instead of, like I used to follow a lot of like white, skinny, thin, like fitness creators who are beautiful and awesome and they provide a lot of knowledge, but all they did was really make me feel like I was chasing a aesthetic and a look that I could never achieve because I'm not white. And I started following creators like Elena Christine, who's, I believe, Puerto Rican. She might be Colombian. No, she's Mexican. She's Mexican and some other thing. Love her. She's amazing. But she's like a Latina creator that I really, really enjoy. And I feel like her results are more attainable for me. And it feels like, when she plays her Latin music, it just makes me feel more connected to my culture. And it's not that I can't enjoy content made by white women, white fitness creators and whatnot, but I feel more connected to Elena's content than I would Whitney Houston. Or is that her name? Whitney something. Not Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston is a singer. But she's Whitney Simmons? Whitney Simmons? I don't know. But she's awesome. Great. Love her. She's really funny. She does like the gusset checks on TikTok if you've ever seen her content. And I love her, but when I look at her, I don't feel connected to her. Whereas when I look at people like Elena Christine, I look at people like Annalise Cruz, like I love watching their videos because they inspire me and I feel connected to their content. And when I saw this video talking about how we're just only uplifting white authors, I was like looking at my bookshelf like, holy shit, yeah. Like I am only reading books written by white people. And I was like, what would it look like if I started to diversify and read books written by Mexican Americans and by Hispanic people in general and, kind of try and learn a little bit more and be inspired by people of my own culture. And it's not that I can't be inspired by or enjoy content made by other cultures, but it's just that I want to feel more connected to my culture and connected to me and who I am at the very core of my being through the books that I'm reading, because I read a lot of freaking books. Like I might as well read books that tell stories of me and my people and the struggles that people who look like me and come from the same culture experience, because really that's what books are about, is about listening to the thoughts and the feelings and the emotions and the stories of other people in and outside of your culture so you can expand your mind and learn, right? So I don't know. And I started doing some research on some romance novels written by Hispanic people, by Mexican American women, some nonfictions. Trejo is an actor. You guys know who he is. He's the absolute he is like the cliche badass Mexican biker dude, gang member dude in like every movie, okay? And he's the best. Like El Machete, if you guys know, but he has a memoir, and that's something that I want to read. Like I want to learn his story. I love seeing him in movies. Every time I see him in a movie, I'm like, hell yeah, and he, from what I know, has a pretty interesting past. And that's one of the books that I came across trying to find books written by Mexican authors and by Hispanic people. And again, it's just something that's been on my mind recently. So I don't know. So the next thing that I wanted to touch on is reading political. And I'm just going to say something really quick. Political does not mean that you are single-handedly promoting one side or the other, especially here in the States where we have a two-party system. Sure, you can claim that we have other parties, but we really only have a two-party system. And political does not mean it is either liberal or conservative. It means we're just discussing political themes and aspects of the government. I literally can pull up the definition. Okay, so the definition of political is relating to the government or the public affairs of a country. Fourth Wing is political. Talks about how they were lying. They used the codex to keep people in line and to keep them in check and to keep them from revolting and finding out the truth about the freaking books are political. And that's where I stand. Because while I don't think that booktubers or book talkers have to share their political opinions, I think it is crazy to ignore political themes and the overwhelming growth of fantasy and dystopian novels in the last 20 years, because as technology advances, we begin to wonder what the future is going to look like. And a lot of that involves government regulation. A lot of it involves losing human rights and things like that. And you can sit here and say, well, books aren't political. You're supposed to read for fun. Okay, well, what are you reading for fun? Okay, because if you think it's fucked up that Zayden had to take slashes to his back to save the Mark ones because they were unwelcome there, and in order for them to continue to stay in that country and not be killed, then you better damn well stand 10 toes down for immigrants in America trying to come and chase a better life. Regardless of whether they do it illegally or not, because the parents of the marked ones were not doing shit legally. They were hiding and they were doing things in secret because that is what they had to do. So again, if you feel bad for Zayden, but you don't feel bad about putting kids in cages, it's a double standard. And you have values. You just might have other ingrained beliefs into you that make you feel like, okay, but that's okay in this situation, but not in this situation. It's not different. It's the same. And those emotions you feel for Zayden, you can feel for other people, but you probably have different prejudices that you grew up around and in that don't allow you to. Unfortunately, we live in a country where people find it very easy to ignore politics, to ignore the news, to pretend like they have no idea what's going on in our country. And these people are usually white, cisgendered people because they don't understand struggle in that sense. They don't know what it's like to have your whole identity and who you are and the color of your skin, and because of who you love, be the reason why people attack you and hate you. They don't understand that until somebody attacks them for being white. And that's also not right, but it is a little tiny taste of their own medicine that all of a sudden it's like, well, people are racist against white people. It's like, okay, but racism systemically is in your favor and it doesn't exist for you as a white cisgendered American. Just saying. We also come to the fact of like just the simple act as women. I know a lot of people who watch me are women. A lot of my followers are women. If you're reading and you're a woman, that act in and of itself is political. The fact every time you get in your car and you drive to a Barnes & Noble and you purchase a book with your own money, that is political. Women were not allowed into libraries or into bookstores for a very long time. Not only that, but women have been attacked for what they read for a long ass time. And we will talk about that a little bit later in the episode. But, just the very act of reading as a woman is political because somebody had to fight for your right to do that. And you know how they did it? Through politics. They did it through politics and through voting and through lobbying and through protesting and through fighting hard for your right to walk into a bookstore and buy whatever the hell you want and walk right back out. Not only that, but to say that books aren't political when almost all books have some sort of commentary on their government that they are like, it doesn't matter what country. Okay, if there's a book in France, if there's a book in America, it's going to have some sort of commentary on the political climate of that time. Okay, especially in fantasy, especially in urban fantasy, in dystopia, in any of those genres that will show you the landscape of the society in these books. And for you to say that, oh, I just read for fun, I just read for escapism, I don't want to think about politics, you're still thinking about politics. I hate to break it to you. You're just thinking about politics in a, how do I say this? In a way that is imaginary and made up, but it is still very real. And it is like almost a parallel to our modern day politics. And that's usually where most writers pull their inspiration from, is either previous governments or other stories of governments in other countries, and they put it in this fake world and they plug and play. And for you to pretend like books aren't political, especially fantasy, is beyond me. Like, it is just insane. Think about, if books aren't political, why are we banning books? Why are we banning books? Books like 1984, which talk about a government that oversteps their boundaries and that begins to control you and that decides whether or not you get to read something. Fahrenheit 451, it's literally about banning books, and they banned it. The irony is there. The politics is there. Whether or not you choose to see it and acknowledge those themes, or to just like take them all the way down to tropes. Like, if you just want to take every book you ever read and just enemies to lovers, slow burn, like tropes, especially romance books, like, be my guest. But I think when you have a public platform with a lot of followers and you don't discuss political themes and you hold certain values when it comes to fictional characters, and when things are happening in the world that affect not just your audience but the people in your community here in America, and you decide to say that politics does not belong in books, you're delusional and you are hiding something from yourself, and maybe you need to come to terms with it, and that is none of my business, but you better damn sure make you do sometime soon. But you better be sure you do sometime soon, because babe, you are so far behind. Okay, love you though. And I also want to mention that art is subjective. Okay, maybe what you take out of Fourth Wing isn't the politics of it all. Okay, you enjoy the romantasy, you enjoy the romance, you enjoy that part of the book, right? Like, you're not really that into the politics and the political climate of, the marked ones and what they mean in this country and the revolution of them leaving and going out. If you don't understand it, or you don't want to interpret it in that way, okay, you have every right to not think about that part of the book and to just enjoy it for the cute little romantasy that it is. Fine. But that is a choice that you are making, to ignore an entire part of the plot, which is political intrigue. And you are choosing to, which is your prerogative. Again, you do whatever you want. But for example, there is a book called Just Mercy, written by a guy who works with an organization who helps people who are on death row. And it, poses this moral question of, do these people deserve to die, and do we deserve, or are we worthy of deciding whether or not they live? And who are we to do this to people, and just poses a lot of moral questions. So in the same sense, when you're talking about books and when you're talking about fantasy especially, and you're saying books aren't political. Okay, now, they are. You're just choosing to ignore that part of the plot. And why are you choosing to ignore it? Does it make you uncomfortable? And that is where you grow as a person. And that is where you kind of realize, like, why do I care so hard to fight so hard against this? Books are political. We should be discussing the political intrigue in them and how they might relate to our current political environment, especially in 2025. I mean, baby, we are out here, first 100 days, and it is looking like a fucking madhouse. Okay? Books are political, and whether or not you decide to interpret them that way, that is a choice you make. But you saying that books are not political because you choose to ignore that side of them is your prerogative. Just don't do it online for the public to see and act like it doesn't exist, because it very much does. Oh, girl, we are spilling Okay. The next thing I wanted to get into is BookTok perpetuating anti-intellectualism? And what does that even mean? Okay. And anti-intellectualism basically means that we are veering farther and farther away from actually studying books or anything at an intellectual level. So when we read romanticises, a lot of times you'll see people who annotate their books. They mark certain quotes, things that they like, parts of the plot, important world building. But when you were in high school and you were assigned books, you were supposed to annotate them. Identifying key literary devices in a book can help you to up your comprehension and to look deeper into books, and can be really, really fun and exciting. However, BookTok is not really the space for that. Most people who annotate on BookTok are talking about quotes that they like, the yearning and the romance and the this and the that, which is all really awesome. And there was this video that went viral of this girl going, "Do you see this? There's so many words on the page. Why is there so many words on the page?" Okay, let's talk about it. Clearly, she was talking about how the font size is too small, which I think we can all agree is just not a good time or a reading experience, because you feel like you have to strain your eyes to see. I don't think that she was actually upset about the amount of words. I think she was upset about the font and the margin sizes. And those are all valid complaints. Now, other BookTube or BookTok creators have taken to the internet to talk about how they actually just skim books and only read dialogue. And that's how they're reading 300 books a year. Okay. Well, it's kind of hard to argue with that. It's kind of hard to say, no, BookTok isn't perpetuating anti-intellectualism, when we have people going on the internet and saying, yeah, I just kind of skim books and I only read the dialogue because I only care about the dialogue because the rest of it's boring. Sorry, what? Sorry, what? And first off, okay, let's just start here. That is ridiculous. That is actually wild. Like, wild of you to be like, nah, I don't do any of that stuff. I don't need to do that stuff. I don't know. What? What do you mean? What do you mean? No. Like, because what do you mean? You just skip to the dialogue? Oh, okay. Okay. And I get, like, towards the end of a book, especially for me, like in thrillers, I'll start to getting to the point where I'm like, okay, it's moving along. And I kind of like just zip past like words. I don't like skim and only read dialogue, but I'll like be reading a sentence and I'll kind of be like, yeah. Sure, whatever. I don't care. Blah, blah, blah. And like, you're just trying to get through it because it's moving really fast. In the last like 10 pages, it gets crazy. And that's when I can understand it. But skimming books and just reading dialogue is crazy. Crazy work. Okay? And second of all, I think that sort of content is perpetuating anti-intellectualism, because it is telling people it is more, it's consumerism. It's consumerism. And I talked about this last episode and I don't want to get into it anymore, but we are such a consumer-based society, okay? Everything is about how much money, how many of those things you can have, how much you have, how much you own. Like, that is the currency, right? It's how many things do I have and how much did it cost, and like how expensive is my home, and like that is status. Okay, and it's been like that for a very long time, but especially in 2025, when we talk about books and we talk about creators who are skimming books and only reading dialogue in order to reach their 350 books a year goal, is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. Okay? And that, in my opinion, perpetuates anti-intellectualism when you promote that sort of reading to your audience, because you're showing them that it's okay. Because again, when you platform yourself, you are showing people that you think the way that you are and what you talk about and what you show the internet is okay, and the way that you act is okay. And now I don't think you have to be a role model, but you are an influencer, and you influence how people think, how people read, how people write, how people act, how people dress, how people like do their makeup, just everything. Influencers have such a big impact on the way that especially young people do things. And when you are promoting that you just skim books to get to the dialogue, you are literally promoting people to just not actually read books. And that to me is criminal, respectfully. The third thing that I want to mention is that while I think that that is wrong, to promote the reading of like skimming and just not giving a shit, I also think it is extremely hypocritical and anti-women to judge women, specifically women. Because let's be honest, nobody's getting on BookTok and judging men for reading self-help books or sci-fi. Nobody's getting on men for reading high fantasy. Want to know why high fantasy is usually written by men? Because it's considered high fantasy. Because it's written by a man. Because it typically doesn't have a big romance plot like most female writers have in their books. And that is seen as less than, which is why we have high fantasy, romantasy, and regular fantasy. Do you see what I'm saying? And this conversation, and recently I've been listening to Loud on audiobook by Giraffe and having this conversation when she talks about the pick-me's and things like that, of like, we have these biases, that sounds right. We have these biases against what women are into, what they like, and how it's childish and girly and not that cool and not that intellectual and not that important, because it's like, oh, you reading your little romance books. Nobody talks shit about men for reading their little sci-fi books. I'm just saying. Nobody's talking shit to men about, oh, well, you read 300 books this year. How did you read 300 books this year? Huh? What did you skim it, or did you actually read it? Nobody cares what men do when it comes to reading. And to me, when we have this conversation of anti-intellectualism on BookTok, it is so veered and so just disgustingly aimed at only women. Specifically women who read romance and fantasy. And I think it's disgusting. I think it's unfair. I think it is, if you're going to judge what people are reading, then you better be judging what everybody's reading, not just women. And when you're going to say that people are perpetuating anti-intellectualism, you better be coming for men as well, because sci-fi is not real, babe. Doesn't take much brain cells to read a fake story about science fiction. Okay? Just like these high fantasy books, right? They're typically more of like a complex world building. Okay? Well, there's more complex relationships in romantasies than there are in high fantasies, because the higher fantasies are typically centered around the actual plot in the setting rather than character development. Whereas romantasies are centered more around character development, relationships between characters, than plot and setting. So you're giving and taking for each one. And I think it is kind of disgusting the way that we only judge what women read and how they read. And again, if you are so concerned with how or what people are reading, ask yourself, why do I care? If you're worried about why is she reading 300 books? Does she not have a job? Does she not, like, what do you do all day? You just sit there and read? There's no way you're reading all the books. Why do you care? Like, I used to be a big hater of audiobooks. I used to be like, reading an audiobook is not the same as reading a book. It's just not the same. I've made videos about it. I've bitched about it to people that I know. I literally said to a girl's face once who records audiobooks for a living that I don't think audiobooks are good. That I think they're trash. And I don't think that they count as reading. And she was so nice to me. And when I think back on that conversation, I'm like, wow, like, you really sounded so ignorant and stupid. And you, to this face, insulted this woman. Now, I didn't, like, insult her, but I insulted her profession or what she does for a living. For what? Why do you care? Why do you care? Not only that, audiobooks, original form. Original form of storytelling is person to person. And I don't know. It's just like the whole anti-intellectualism really, number one, again, just attacks women. But it's like, I can see how there's a concern that books are being summed up to just their tropes. And people are only reading books because they're easy to digest and smutty and romancy and, you know, simple and easy to comprehend. And that's not necessarily challenging yourself. And now, you don't have to challenge yourself. You really don't. This is a free world. You can do whatever you want. You don't have to challenge yourself when it comes to reading books or what you're reading. But I strongly encourage you to read books that challenge your idea of the world. Maybe not necessarily that are extremely difficult to read, like a Brandon Sanderson higher fantasy. It's a little bit harder to read than Fourth Wing, than, Sarah J. Maas, ACOTAR, right? Throne of Glass is a little bit harder to read than ACOTAR. Does that mean it's not as good? Or does that mean that it's too hard to read and you shouldn't read it? No, I think you should challenge yourself to try and read books that are outside of your comfort zone. Read some literary fiction. If you're like a soul, romance, and fantasy reader, try out some new genres. Try out some nonfiction. Read Just Mercy. I've heard such good things about Just Mercy that I really want to read it. It's on my TBR, but I'm on a book buying ban right now until I cut these books down. But challenge yourself a little bit. Annotate your books, even if it's just, highlighting quotes that you really like, or words that you don't know or understand, or underlining parts of the plot that you think are important or that are foreshadowing. Having that small practice, and now you don't have to do it for every book. I certainly don't. But when I read thrillers, I love to highlight when I'm like, ooh, this might be important later. Highlight, right? This might be foreshadowing. Highlight. Ooh, this is, this one tidbit about this character. Highlight. I like to write in the margins and be like, oh, this might happen, blah, 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 blah. Or we just found this out. This might be suspicious. Annotate a little bit. Learn how to do it. But I think I want to kind of wrap up this conversation about anti-intellectualism by saying, if you think that book talkers are responsible solely for anti-intellectualism, you are sorely mistaken. It started with the internet. It started with social media. It started with big corporations putting all this information at your fingertips. And instead of finding a way to allow it to expand our minds, and instead of finding a way to learn more about the world and cultures, we live in a society that is banning books, that is keeping you distracted and keeping you scrolling at all hours of the day. I don't think that women reading smutty little books is perpetuating anti-intellectualism any more than this video on the internet. I'm promoting that you sit here and you listen to me rant rather than doing your homework, rather than going out and reading a book and learning and growing in the world. Could you learn stuff on my podcast? Yeah. And I hope that you do. But I think it is extremely anti-feminism, or not anti-feminism. I think it's anti-women to just attack women for what they're reading and calling it anti-intellectualism and saying that they're perpetuating it. And even if they sort of are, by influencing people to not partake in reading comprehension, to not partake in challenging themselves by what they read, what does it matter to you? Again, why do you care? If you are doing your job to show your friends and teach your friends and recommend to your friends books that really made you just kind of think and change the way that you believe and think about the world, that is all you have to do. You cannot control what other people do. And while I think it's important for people with platforms to talk about books that are challenging and books that challenge them, if I'm for example, you go to different creators for different things. So for example, if I go to Jared Henderson, makes awesome, really, really smart, well thought out, well processed videos about books. Love his videos. Versus somebody who's a TikToker and I hate to dog on her, but Mariana Moore. Love her. Love her content. She talks all things dark romance, fantasy, romance novels. She is the girl to come to because she's reading at all hours of the day. Okay, this girl never stops reading. But if I want something that's a little bit well fleshed out, well thought out, we're talking about literary devices, comprehension, the actual meat and bones of a book, discussing the themes of a book, I'm going to watch a Jordan Henderson video. And so you have different creators. And so instead of bringing down other creators for making booktube or BookTok content that is seen as anti-intellectualism and just about tropes and romance and smut, instead of bringing them down as if they're less, how about you bring other smaller creators who are not as popular on TikTok that have been around for a very long time making content? come on. Like Plant-Based Bride, for example. She's got a pretty good following on BookTube. I never see her videos on BookTok. And if she popped up more on people's BookTok, I think that they would think differently about the way that they approach books and read them. However, it's not the most popular because it's not the most accessible, because it's not easy to comprehend. And it is not elitist to think that people should, comprehend books a little bit more than normal, because you're not forcing anybody to do it. And all you're wanting to do is encourage people to challenge themselves. And you can't say that people who don't annotate books or don't look into them and all of the ways that the plot was set up and the different themes, and maybe they don't discuss all these different parts of the book other than the tropes and the romance and the vibes, right? You can't say that they're not as smart as people who partake in reading comprehension and serious annotation of their books and seriously try to sit down and understand the themes and the plot of the book. I don't know. That's just my 2 cents. I don't think that BookTok is perpetuating anti-intellectualism. I think that maybe there are some creators that are not the best influence on young people, especially for how they should be reading and what they should be reading. But that is my choice, to just ignore their content and not consume. And that is a choice that we get on the internet. We don't have to watch people's content that we don't want to watch. It's that easy. So yeah. The next thing I want to talk about is BookTok drama, because I feel like recently there's been some BookTok drama, and how stupid I think it is. How stupid. Again, there's a lot of drama on BookTok because there's a lot of people who are so quick to be politically correct and to stand on the right side of a situation, like canceling somebody for saying something weird or out of context that somebody else posted and was like, yo, so-and-so said this, or, so-and-so was talking about this and it's wrong and blah, 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 blah. And then you shut down somebody's whole career and try to get everybody to hate them because everybody's so quick to be like, oh my God, this is so fucked up, instead of looking into what you're looking at. Do you know what I'm saying? And this is how misinformation spreads so quickly, especially when it comes to politics. But let's talk about BookTok. Somebody posted, so Larry on BookTok, I'm sure you guys all know who she is. I'll insert her picture here. I love her content. I used to not be a big fan, but now I love her content. I have binged all of her content recently and I'm obsessed. But a couple weeks ago, she posted a review of Rena Kent's new novel. Rena Kent writes dark romance, okay? And Larry had a negative opinion of one of her new books. And as a result of that, Rena Kent unfollowed her on TikTok. So as a joke, Larry took a screenshot of that and made a whole video of her oh no, freaking out, falling on the floor, the whole 9, right? Obviously a joke. And the whole internet just spiraled and snowballed, because this is what happens when people don't take literally take 1 fucking second. When you see something on the internet, take 1 second to think about what you just saw. If it's canceling somebody, if it's shitting on somebody, if it's news, if it's politics, take 1 second to comprehend it for yourself and look at, oh, they posted this. Is it real? Is it true? Let me look into this. And that's the problem. And that is why we are in the political state that we are in today, because we have a fucking president who looks at a photoshopped picture of interpreted tattoos on a man's hand and goes, no, there was literally MS-13 on his knuckles when it was clearly edited. The fact that we have a president of the most powerful country in the world, access to the biggest arsenal of nuclear weapons in the entire world, is the president of the United States. And he can't even tell the difference between a Photoshop and an actual photo. That was a rant that I didn't need to have, but I did. I had it. And I hate it. And it happens so much. It happens so often on BookTok. And so what happened to Larry was that people were sharing this video and duetting it and being like, she's so dramatic. She's so this. She thinks that because she's a BookToker, she deserves to be followed by every author. She's so entitled. She's so that. She's so this, which then spiraled into, I don't even like her. I hate her content. I don't like her at all. She's so annoying. She doesn't even actually read the books that she reviews. She's gotten this and this wrong, and pulling old clips where she says things incorrectly. Oh, sorry. She doesn't have all 600 books that she owns memorized. That is such an unrealistic expectation to have on somebody, and to get so upset at them for getting one detail wrong that you're like, you clearly didn't read the book, you're such a fucking idiot, you're a liar, you're this, you're that, and try to destroy their platform and defame their name, all because somebody shared a post who 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 shared a post, and you see 3 of your friends reposted this post about how Larry is a spoiled brat and is entitled and thinks that she deserves to be followed by authors on TikTok, and was freaking out when Marina Kent decided not to follow her, and then everybody talking shit about her and picking on her for stupid things, and bringing her down, and other women on the internet talking about the way that she looks, the way that she talks, the way that she walks, everything, to the point where, I'm not joking, you guys, and Larry, Miss Girl, if you see this at all, I'm so fucking sorry that the internet is such a disgusting place that this is what you have to go through. Larry suffers from OCD and anxiety, and I'm sure probably depression, but I don't know. And she's decided to admit herself into like sort of inpatient program where she's at this facility from like 8 in the morning till 6 p.m. at night. It's kind of like a job. She goes in and gets treatment and therapy and, just works on her OCD and anxiety, which obviously is a result of all the hate she's been getting out on the internet. And is she a bad person? No. And so this BookTok drama, the BookTok world, like, get a fucking grip. You guys are supposed to be some of the most cultured, well-read, understanding, emotionally intelligent group of people on the internet, and yet you decide to attack people for out-of-context videos that you misinterpreted, reposted, and just decided to start hating on somebody for. And it snowballed to cause somebody to put themselves in a literal mental facility to help themselves. Because that is how badly you've affected them. That is my problem with BookTok, especially BookTok. Because BookTube, I feel like, is kind of a chill place. It's kind of like a cozy, comfy, not a lot of drama place. I feel like it's one of the least like drama-filled book or YouTube spaces. And that's why I love BookTube more than BookTok. 100%. So I just I hate it. I hate it. Now, let's talk about what I really wanted to talk about today, which is why I decided to make this the theme of today's podcast, which is Amazon. Okay, I need to explain to you something. Amazon owns Kindle, and they also own Audible, and they also own Goodreads. What are the top 3 most used apps for like a book reader? I'ma wait. Yep. Kindle, Audible, Goodreads. Yep. So Amazon currently holds not a actually declared monopoly, but what is pretty close. I think they dominate like 86% of the market for books, which is insane. And they are extremely difficult to compete with. And I've said this a million times, and I will say it again to the day that I die. Support your local small fucking businesses, for the love of God. Support them. They need your help. They rely on you. They do not have as many funds, as many backups, as much of a plan B as all these giant corporations do. Okay? And when we talk about Amazon being a monopoly, that's why Barnes & Noble almost went out of business the first time, because people stopped going into stores to buy books. They started ordering them on Amazon, because Amazon purposefully takes, if you don't know, Amazon sells their books for cheaper. They purposefully take a loss on their books because they make a lot more money in other places, okay? Like gypping publishers or authors on their royalties for their books, but also offering more royalties for holding your books exclusively on Amazon, which basically means that you can't publish your books anywhere else other than Amazon, which then forces your consumers to go to Amazon to purchase your book, either in ebook form or physical form. And then in those platforms, they're going to be advertised to 1 million times over to buy other things that aren't even book related, or maybe they are. And listen, I am not like a big conspiracy theorist, but this is not a conspiracy. This is fact. So basically, Kindle has decided that you do not own the ebooks that you buy. Let's say you buy a book. Say you buy Fourth Way on ebook, on Kindle, okay? You don't own that book. You own a license to view the content of that book, but you do not own it. And whereas when you have a physical book, like I own A Court of Mist and Fury by Sarah J. Maas. This book is going to stay this way forever. I purchased it to look like this. I didn't get the Night Court version because I don't want it. Now imagine if Barnes & Noble had sold me this book and then they came out with these new Night Court versions. Okay, I'm going to insert a picture here so you can see. I don't want that shit. I like this. But they say, They're going to come into my house. They're going to take this book. They're going to rip off the covers. They're going to rebind it into having the Night Court version. And then they're going to put it back on my shelf. And they can do that whenever and as many times as they want. And that is essentially what Amazon does to your ebooks. They can change anything that's inside of the book. They can reprint the book completely. They can completely delete the book and take it back because they want to. And that, when I found that out, now I do have a Kindle, but I have Kindle Unlimited. I don't own any books on my Kindle as of right now. But that to me is fucking insane. You're telling me you can buy a book, an ebook, okay, for $9.99 on Amazon, but you don't actually own it. And the minute that they decide that those books are no longer allowed to be on Kindle or shouldn't be read by anybody, or maybe they just don't like you and they shut down your Amazon account entirely, you lose access to all of those books forever. And they recently rolled out that you can no longer connect your Kindle, because you used to be able to, I guess, is from what the research that I've done today, is you used to be able to hook up your Kindle to a computer, download all your books onto your computer, so that way if anything happens to your Kindle, you still have them. But now they don't want you doing that. And that is insane, because it is like they are leasing you. You're renting this book. You're not actually paying for it. And they can do whatever they want. Like, crazy. Why am I just now finding this out? Like, I did not know this, okay? And before you go out and, like, throw away your Kindle and, like, start, like, hating Amazon and stuff, okay? That's not what I'm saying to do. Because then you're just adding to the landfill by throwing out your Kindle and going and buying a Kobo or whatever. But if you are in the market for a new e-reader, I highly recommend you switch over to Kobo. Because from the research I've done, Amazon is just here to simply fuck you right over. And they do not care about you owning the books that you own and having the books that you have. And I think it's fucking crazy. It is crazy that Amazon has all this control. They can do it with their Audible books too. If there's a licensing problem with it, or they can't get the rights, or this and this happened, they can't get the negotiations, they can delete an audiobook like this. Like literally in an instant. And you have paid for that book, but you will not get access to it ever. Sorry, what? That is insane. That is fucking outrageous to me. And I know that seems like, okay, but like, how is that crazy? Just imagine what they are capable of doing if they can take away any of your books at any point in time, even when you paid for them, by hiding these little details in terms of service. Think about it. Because everything that they're doing is legal. Because it's all in the terms of service that you agree to, that you don't read. And it is so, like, you should be scared and terrified of a world where we own nothing. And I cannot believe that. Truly honest. Like, it blows my mind away. And like, okay, let's say even if people aren't buying physical books on Amazon, they're not buying ebooks, they're not listening to audiobooks, you're using Goodreads, and Goodreads gives you ads, and those ads put more money into Amazon's pocket. So recently I downloaded Fable, which, if you guys don't know what Fable is, it's also kind of like Goodreads, but probably a lot more modern, and it probably functions a lot better than Goodreads does, because if you use Goodreads, you know that it's not the best app out there. But I recently started using Fable, and I like it. it's a good fucking time on Fable. I don't know why, like, I just haven't downloaded it because I was kind of scared of change, but I'm gonna try this out. I'm gonna see if I like it, and if I do, I'm gonna keep using Fable, and I'm gonna ignore Goodreads because Amazon has taken enough from us. Amazon has taken enough, and I don't want Amazon to just like wipe my whole Goodreads account and I can never see it again because they just decided to, because they can. Or all the ebooks that I own that I don't own right now because I have Kindle Unlimited and I don't want to spend money on an ebook. I'd rather just like use Kindle Unlimited when I can and then buy physical copies because I like having trophies. Man, so another episode where we talk about real life shit. I'm so proud of me for being an intellectual. But seriously, again, if you guys want to do any more research on these topics, I highly recommend that you do. Talk, especially when it comes to like the Amazon monopoly over the publishing world, and just like seriously go check out Jared Henderson's video. He has a lot of detail on how that works and how it affects not just, the consumer, but the authors and the publishers. And yeah. So we're going to move on to the last section of today's podcast episode. If you guys are new here, we do a segment at the end of every single episode where we talk about our yuck and yums of the week. Okay? And my yuck of this week, I think I've discussed this in my Ep.6 podcast episode, but my yuck of this week is people who talk on the phone in public when they're trying to order something. If you didn't know, I'm a small business owner, and so I work behind a counter all day. And I have customers that walk in and they order stuff and then they sit down. And every once in a while, I'll get people who are on the phone. And I mean on the phone. I don't mean hey, like, I'll call you back. Like, give me 1 second. Or, hey, give me just 1 second. I'm ordering something really quick. No. I mean people who are like, yeah, dude, I told you. Yeah, like, so we're going to do this on Friday night. Are you ready to go? What is in the banana bread? Oh, yeah, bro. Like, I told her that I didn't want to go. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, excuse me. Like, what comes on top of that? Oh, okay. No, dude, I told you that I just didn't want to be there. Like, literally swear to God, that's how people treat me at work sometimes. And it blows my fucking mind because 90% of the time it has nothing to do with work or business. It's all like people who talk shit on the phone all day. And the worst is when people put it on speaker. I'm sorry, what? You just put your phone on speaker so I could hear it. And so all the other customers in here could hear your personal conversation where you're talking shit about your brother-in-law. Yuck. Absolute yuck. No, thank you. Not for me. No. Now, my yum for this week. I think I had the same yum last week, but Jessie Reyes has just been on repeat for me, okay? Goliath, New York bitch, so NYB. Couldn't Be Me is obvious go-to. What's the other one? Begging for Love is also one of my top ones. Jeans has been on replay for a minute because that came out a while ago. What is the last one? Oh, Love of Your Life. LOYL. I eat it up every time. Just the whole album. It's called Paid in Memories. It's so good. And I really think that as somebody who's been a fan of Jessie since like 2016 or 2017 when she like published her first album, I truly like have nothing. I'm so proud of her from the way that she has grown as a person. She's, gotten sober in the last in the last year, I think. And, her music used to be a lot of like about alcohol and drinking and partying. And, I felt like this album, I could really tell that Jessie has grown as a person. She's accepted a lot of things about herself. She's begun to love herself a little bit more, have more respect for herself, and kind of like standing up for herself, but still kind of sharing those painful moments of life. And I'm just so unbelievably proud of her. I'm going to see her on tour. She's coming to St. Pete, and I'm honestly thinking about seeing her in St. Pete and then also seeing her in Miami because I need to experience it. I just know like Jessie Reyes is one of those like top tier artists and celebrities for me that if I met Jessie in person, if I heard her sing live, I would sob. Like, I know I will be sobbing at her show. I will be crying about just how eloquently. She puts feelings and emotions that I've never been able to put into words. She just does it so well. And she writes songs so well, and she's incredibly talented, and her voice is so unique, and she is a once in a lifetime kind of artist. Like, when I tell you, like, she is one of the best artists, in my personal opinion, to have ever walked this earth in the last 20 years to exist. And I feel so blessed. Like, for those of you, speaking of books, if you're a Nesta fan, you need to listen to Jessie Reyes. Her music is Nesta coded as a motherfucker. She is an extremely imperfect and complex, angry woman who has been hurt and burned and who has hurt other people, and she is not perfect, and that is what I love about her music. And she just, God, like, I could cry just talking about how awesome she is. And I truly, like, when I see her on tour this summer, I'm gonna scream. I am gonna lose my mind because I am so obsessed with her. I'm so in love with her. I think that she is the best artist right now, in my personal opinion. Like, she is above Billie Eilish for me. She's even above Harry Styles for me. Like, truly, I don't think I've met an artist who has been able to put my life, feelings, and emotions and experiences into words better than her. And if you haven't checked it out, go listen to her new music. She just came out with an album. It's called Pain and Memories. Yessie is also great. Apple Juice is also great. Let's see. 2018 is when she put out Being Human in Public. And Being Human in Public is still one of my favorite all-time Jessie Reyes albums. I can't. Apple Juice. Oh, my God. It's just so, so fucking good. And seriously, please watch her. Please go check her out because she's so underrated. When I've been telling people I'm obsessed with this album, they're like, who's that? And it blows my mind. I hate y'all bitches. Get cultured. Learn about amazing artists, okay? All right, that was my rant this week about how much I love Jessie Reyes. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to see you guys next week. I upload new podcast episodes every single Monday here on this channel. Go check out my vlogging channel if you guys want to see more bookish content, wellness content, my day-to-day life. And yeah, comment down below how you feel about these topics, how you feel about BookTok. Do you think it's perpetuating anti-intellectualism? Do you think that smutty books are bad? What's your favorite book? What are you reading right now? What's the last thing you read? Yeah, I love you guys so much. Have an amazing day, and I will see you guys next week. Bye.